I'm Morne Christou.
And I'm Louis Engelbrecht.
And you're watching The Dan Show, your healthy dose of dive safety tips and more. This week we're going to be talking to Louis Engelbrecht about liability, fitness, waivers with regards to dive training and being involved with a dive shop as such. I go to a dive shop and I want to do a dive course. The guy gives me a whole bunch of information on what it is I'm going to be doing and where I'll end up after the course. But before everything can start, he hands me this whole bunch of papers and I need to sign it. Part of the things I need to sign is something to do with a medical kind of assessment, and I have to say yes or no whether some things apply or not. And I'm not sure. What's up with this?
First of all, the information that you give is extremely important. Please give the correct information. The reason for that is when you go to the dive operator or the dive school or the dive owner of the business, so to speak, he will have you sign certain documentation. Now make no mistake that the diving game or the diving sport as such is a high-risk sport. And we need to cater for this environment. You've mentioned the waiver. Now, unfortunately, recently in the Cape vicinity or in South African, the legal system, a judge has pronounced in a certain law report that the waiver does not stand impugned.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's actually not radical. You will have noted that in the Alert Diver a couple of issues ago, and you can certainly in the link here for the link to the particular edition, we have touched on the waiver. And we've actually explained our opinion that the waiver cannot stand impugned. You can simply not just go and sign away all your rights, so to speak.
Okay.
Now, what is important is that when you sign this waiver, you're signing a particular set of circumstances. You are saying, I'm agreeing to participate in these circumstances. And that waiver is partly the document that any defense is going to base itself on should there be an incident. The other important thing is, and this is where the health becomes so important, is without even having signed such a waiver, by sheer conduct, which amongst others means your divulging of certain information on this questionnaire, not only has health implications, but also has legal implications. In the sense, and I love to throw the Latin terms, but there's a very important Latin term applicable here. It's called, as we know it in the legal fraternity, as the valenti rule. Now, I'd say simply, volenti non fit in iuria. It says by your conduct, which can be verbal or non-verbal, you actually concede to certain circumstances.
What's the big deal even having a paper you sign? Whether you sign it or whether you have a verbal sort of agreement, it's kind of the same or not really?
It sort of is auxiliary. The paper will assist me as a defense attorney in your civil claim.
I see, okay.
However, your conduct will be also extremely important. The information that you give, for sake of argument, if you are on certain medication which could affect your diving, and I think Dr. Franz has or will elaborate on the health aspects thereof, but certainly the use of certain types of medication does have an effect on your diving capability and so forth, also on your diving liability, dive master, dive leader, and so forth. So it is very important that, it's very important that our conduct is measured and that our conduct is screened, and that we know as a diving operator or as a diving leader as such that we can be held liable. Once again, if you're in any doubt, phone the legal hotline.
Yeah.
We will assist you with the necessary information, and we will ensure that your risk is so much better.
So, do you think it's important for the dive pros out there, whether it's an independent instructor associated with a business or the business itself, to really bring home the point that this is important, and whether you say yes or no, in any case, maybe to go do a dive medical, so that one can just, in the event that there might be an issue, eliminate that, or that people maybe become aware of certain limitations or issues they weren't aware of, and by doing so you reduce the risk again of all sorts.
I like the word reducing the risk, because that complies with the test that has just been established by our court to interpret law, and that's the word due diligence.
Yeah.
The due diligence factor has become so important, and the due diligence factor is a culmination of all the issues like a waiver, like the questionnaire, like your health or your inspection or your doctor's visit. All of that culminates in the issue of safe diving and the issue of the risk being mitigated. I use that word so often because that is what it's all about. The risk being mitigated by yourself, as well as the diving leader, the instructor, the dive master, and so forth. So due diligence is not only a new buzzword, but that is the word that tests your conduct, and that's going to test your liability, and that is the word that Dan is all about.
Okay, so how about this? We swing it around a little bit now, and I'm the client. I'm a qualified diver, and I'm going to some place to dive. I don't know, let's say we're going to Mexico for argument's sake. And you know, I go dive, I rent some gear from the dive operator. They assure me that it's fine, but you know, you always got to sign their papers. Something goes wrong and my regulator freezes and I have a bad experience, and as I try sort of work my way to somebody to help me, the BCD all of a sudden starts inflating, and the next thing you know, I'm up at the surface. Well, I guess thank goodness, because I remember to you know, breathe out and all. But now I'm back and I sort of take it up with the manager, the owner of the place, and I say, you know, you made me sign this, and now you don't want to take any sort of responsibility for this. How does that work? You know, do I have a right to say, hey, but even though I've signed this piece of paper, you didn't supply me with you know, proper equipment, safe equipment, and you know, I want to take this further. Do I have a leg to stand on, or that piece of paper I signed is basically, you know, I can't do anything anymore?
I think the legal principle as it now stands, given specifically the history of the litigation, and I must add, we've had very little litigation in South Africa until this point in time, but the legal principle as it currently stands, as interpreted by our courts, first of all, let me address the South African principle, is that the waiver is not going to indemnify or is not going to work against you as a user should you have signed the waiver. Remember, the word that I just used is the due diligence. So if due diligence had not been practiced towards you, certainly you have a legal foot proverbially to stand on. You might have, and remember the word I'm using is might have, but we will assist you with the necessary information. You should have a valid claim in a court of law. Let me just address the foreign issue that you've just spoken about, because your example did indicate that we're going diving in Mozambique, we're going diving in Mexico, Thailand, or something like that. The legal system in the foreign country should and would in all probability be a different legal system, yet the principles would be the same. So first of all, the Dan hotline is there. We are internationally. You can phone us. We will capacitate you on the spot information. But the interesting thing is that should you decide to litigate at a later point in time, there will be a referral issue. We can refer you to the appropriate legal authority, or an attorney or solicitor as it's known overseas. But certainly you will be assisted and you will have recourse. That I can guarantee, even in a foreign legal system.
Alright guys, that wraps it up for this episode. Who are you?
I'm Louis Engelbrecht.
I'm Morne Christou, and you watched The Dan Show.